Hey everyone, what's up and welcome. Today we are back and we're going to be breaking down Marvel Rivals settings from front to back. We're going to be going through everything in detail to help you all get set up so you don't have to worry about how your game is functioning and you could just focus on getting as good as possible. There are a ton of settings in this game, from display settings, audio settings, keyboard, mouse, and controller settings, which we'll be going through both inputs today. I do play on both inputs. I'm a mouse and keyboard player, and I've also had tons and tons of experience on controller. There's even individual secret little settings you can tweak within each character, and there's 33 characters, so that's a lot to go through. I found out all the special ones that I'll just share with you today and that I think are valuable and that I use personally. When it comes to the keyboard and controller settings, when it comes to the bindings and specific buttons I press and the sensitivities I use, all of that is personal preference to what I enjoy. Not everybody's gonna like my sensitivity. There is no best sensitivity no matter the input you play on, and you're gonna wanna do what's most comfortable for you to work off of, but at the end of the day, seeing what I use can give you a guide as to a direction you might wanna take yours. So yeah, we're gonna get into it right now. I will break everything down in timestamps as well in the video, so this way if you wanna skip to a specific part, you can do so without having to skim through the whole video. And we'll also hop in the range for some of the character settings so I can show those off in detail when I do talk about them. So getting into my display settings, for display mode, I do play on full screen. You will get the most frames playing on full screen, so I highly recommend you turn this on and play on it. My aspect ratio is 16:9. My resolution is 1440p. I have a 1440p 240 hertz monitor. Anti-aliasing and super resolution type. I like playing with DLSS. It honestly does help with performance quite a bit. And I have an NVIDIA card. You need an NVIDIA card to use this. If you don't, you have an AMD card. I recommend AMD FSR. My super resolution mode, I have this set to quality. I'm not trying to like squeeze every little milking bit of performance to the point my game is gonna look like garbage. Quality looks quite nice. All of our settings are set low here, but like I said, they still look really good when we get in game. My super resolution sharpening, I have this set to 100. I cranked it all the way up. Frame generation mode, I don't like turning this on. You will honestly get more frames if you do turn it on, but it tends to add input lag, so I just don't like it. I mean, that just feels terrible. NVIDIA Reflex Low Latency I have turned on. My brightness I do have set to the default value at 50. I haven't really tweaked it. I didn't feel the need to. Limiting my FPS, I have that limited to 240 because I play on 240 hertz monitor, so I like to cap it at that. In terms of showing my FPS, I have a built-in FPS counter into my monitor, like way over there, so I can see it at all times, which is why I have mine off. But if you don't have one of those, I definitely recommend turning it on. It'll be able to show you your performance as you're playing, see where you're dipping if you're having issues. Network stats, I have this turned on. You can see your ping, see your connection. It's always nice to see. VSync, keep that off. Game language, English, because I'm English. And and in terms of my graphic settings, like I said, all of this is set to low. I set the graphics quality down to low. Two settings that in particular will really hurt your performance is in the illumination and the reflections quality. If you have them turned on to the lumen settings, whether it's high, especially ultra on either of these, lumen is just much more resource intensive. And so I still do have the reflections and illuminations on, but just at the SSGI variance at high quality. That's gonna do it for display settings on PC, and we're gonna get into the audio settings now, because there actually is some stuff that I did tweak in here. In terms of my master volume, this is default 80. I left everything here normal except for my music. Music in-game and music in the lobby I turned off. I actually kind of like the music in-game, so I might turn this back on at some point, but definitely lobby music I turned off. In terms of playback, I turned on 3D enhancement. I use this if you play on headphones. It honestly makes a difference. I just see no reason to not turn this on. It's just adding features, so I mean, add 3D enhancement to your audio. And background playback, when you tab out, your audio will still play, especially if you're streaming. Your game won't just constantly mute up. In terms of my microphone settings, like I said, I have these set default to 80. I found the voice chat to be just fine. It's not something I felt the need to tweak with. Getting into the combat mix, there are honestly a couple settings within here that I do think you should turn on because they're not on by default. If you scroll down here, there is KO sound cue and announcement enemy KO. I recommend you turn both of these on when you wipe a team. or when you wipe an enemy or one of your teammates get killed, it'll actually tell you, and I think that's really useful information, especially in a competitive environment. Sometimes there's a lot going on, especially in this game, and the audio cues are nice. But that's all I changed for audio. Like I said, nothing too crazy, everything's pretty standard. But now we're gonna move on to my keyboard and mouse settings, because there's quite a bit to go through here. And in terms of my reticle, by the way, they're the same on controller and keyboard. So what I show you here in this keyboard section, it will still be applicable in the controller section. My sensitivity, I play on 45 centimeters per 360, which is a 0.73 sensitivity in game. I said that same for both horizontal and vertical. In terms of my reticle, I do play on a green dot. You could probably barely see it right there, but it is just a little green dot. I'm gonna open it up so you guys can actually see the details of my reticle. I did set it to the color green. Green is very easily visible. I tend to set a lot of my crosshairs to green in game. It's just something that stands out and generally doesn't blend in with backgrounds of games. I'm just gonna slowly scroll through this just so you can see it. It's set to size 10 in terms of the outline width of like the dot. It's also set to 10, and that's pretty much it. There's no penalty animations to it or anything like that. It's just a straight up green dot that's decently small. It's not pixel size, but it's small enough that headshots won't be a problem at further ranges. I'm gonna close that back up. In terms of my HUD widget size, I have this set to default, but this is something some people might want to experiment with. If you do like a smaller, less intrusive HUD, then you could set it to small, but honestly, there are cooldown timers on your HUD, and sometimes they can be useful to see, so I just left it at the default size. Another setting you should definitely turn on is allied health bar, so you can monitor the health bars of your teammates. This is set to default by default, so definitely turn that on. In terms of my movement keys, these are getting to know my keybinds, which I'll get into a little bit. Like I said, they are personal preference, but maybe some of you guys will like it. I binded jump and ascend to scroll wheel up. Ascend, it won't even work on scroll wheel up, but just jumping, I always bind a scroll wheel up in my video games. One weird keybind, I've inverted my right click on my mouse with my control key. I always aim down sights, like in first person shooters, with my left control key on my keyboard. And so my crouch and control key are always swapped, which is why you see that there. My primary weapon, 1, 2, reload R, primary attack, left click, like standard. Like I said, the secondary click in this game is my left control because I swapped those. My melee attack, I've set to my mouse button. I set my abilities to C, V, X, and then obviously I left my ability to on shift just because there's like web slinging and mobility, and that makes sense on shift. But I set them to C, V, and X, and for the team up abilities, B, Q, and E, just because I can access most of those abilities with my thumb. So if I'm ever doing a lot of like combinations, let's say you're playing something crazy like Spider-Man, it's nice to be able to input abilities without having to take your fingers off the movement keys. It just makes it a lot harder to pull things off when you can't control where you're moving at the same time. And so that's why I've always done in video games. It is something to give you a sensitive direction if you want to set up your own keybinds though. And in terms of environmental interaction, I set that to on the side of the mouse button as well. In terms of my UI, like I said, there's just some very minor stuff in here. My chronovision is set to Z, changing hero set to F. I'm just sharing this more so for you guys who are actually wondering what I run. My communication, my ping is standard. I did change my emote button, or I guess you could say the sprays key. I don't think there's emotes in this game, but I set that to N, and then my push to talk back to T. And spectating tab, I didn't touch whatsoever. That's completely default across the board. And once again, at the top of your settings, you do have all heroes, but this is where you can go and click any specific hero you want in the game and tweak individual settings that they actually have per character. And you can see all of the icons that are above characters with this little star here are characters I've tweaked. So there's quite a few I've gone through. Once again, I'll go through this after I go through the controller settings really quickly, and we'll get into some specific settings you can tweak for yourselves. Now, in terms of controller settings, I left the cursor sensitivity on default, but I did turn off vibrations. I don't recommend you ever have vibrations on in a competitive game. And I also just turned it to 0 just in case. In terms of the combat, I set my sensitivity to a 100 horizontal sensitivity and a 75 vertical. I always recommend having your vertical a bit slower than your horizontal, just because it makes tracking side to side a lot easier. Trust me, if you set this to a match 100-100, you'll just notice how much more instability you feel in drawing straight lines. I also found 100 to be a really nice sweet spot where it is a bit slower. My sensitivity on controller is always catered to slower senses, but it is a little bit slower, but not to the point where I feel like I'm incompetent at snapping on someone from behind me. But at the same time, it really helps with those precision shots at far ranges, because this is a third-person shooter, and honestly, some people can be pretty small on your screen. If I open this up to the advanced settings, I do like linear curves. The dual S-zone curve can be nice too, but I find it weird in this game. Call of Duty has a reverse S curve and it makes snapping to targets quicker while making micro adjustments still very precise. But I play a lot of Apex Legends and linear curve is just very sturdy, so I like linear in this game. In terms of the dead zones, all of this stuff I've set to 0. The minimum input dead zone makes it so that, you know, the moment you move your stick, it's detecting input. So I would set this to 0. It's very important. I don't get stick drift either at 0 in this game, which is nice. Maximum input dead zone. This determines how much play your stick has to work with. So the smaller you set this, you're gonna get the most precision out of the stick that you're working with. And so like I said, I recommend you set this all the way down to 0. And my max dead zone sensitivity boost and response times, I also just set these to 0. I don't want any of these multipliers messing with my sense or the ramp up time or anything like that, so I just set it to 0. In terms of my swap left and right sticks, I have all this off. I'm not an alien. My aim assist window size, I've actually left default. This isn't determining how much aim assist you're gonna get. This is just the window at which it's kind of like active, and 50 is already pretty big, and I just like it standard left here. I don't want to make it any smaller because targets get pretty small, but it's big, trust me. Aim assist strength, definitely leave this at 100. Going against most keyboard players, you're going to need every bit you can get. And in terms of the ease-in, I played with this setting quite a bit. A lot of these settings, they say are catered better for some of the hit scan characters, the melee characters, regardless. No matter what character I was using, I liked it when the aim assist ease-in was set to 0. I don't like it when it eases it in. I just want the aim assist to kick in right away the moment I'm interacting with the target. I'm dealing with the aim assist effect. That's kind of how it feels like it's been in most games I've played anyways. I don't know. I leave these off. This is a personal preference. Like I said, you could tweak it with yourself, but 0 felt really good. And disabling aim assist at max dead zone. I can see why people would like this. You know, if you want to make it so that when you are like snapping around and turning 180 degrees, that your aim assist isn't activating as you pass by potential other enemies. But I don't know, that's something you could experiment with. If a guy was up close, you're playing a melee character and you're cranking your stick, you wouldn't want to lose aim assist, so I just keep it off. And in terms of my reticle, once again, it's the same one as my mouse and keyboard. It's just the green dot. It is a preset. Just in case you had skipped to this part of the video and, you know, bypassed the keyboard settings video, I will open up my reticle just so you can see how it's made once again. The width, everything is just set to 10, 10, 100, 10, 100, 0, 0, and it's just a green dot. My HUD widget size, same again in controller settings, is default. Allied health bars set to on. Individual hero mappings, we'll get into that once again in just a moment. And the press to ascend, I would actually turn this on. It's off by default. It's on mouse and keyboard by default, but off on controller by default. I don't know why they do that, but I definitely would set this to just press. UI, I touched nothing in controller, and communication, I also touched nothing under controller. But now we're gonna hop into the range and we're gonna actually take a look at the specific hero settings that I did tweak, because some of these are game changers. All right, now this is a setting you're gonna wanna change for pretty much every support character in the game. It's pretty useful. We're gonna go to Adam Warlock because he's an example of someone who only has one setting to work with here. If you go to the hero setting and go to healing reticle feedback, you're gonna wanna turn this on. It'll give you a little indicator when you're actually healing people, and it's just nice to see. It's extra information. It helps you know if you're doing your job or not. And once again, you're going to want to do this for Rocket Raccoon, Mantis, Loki, Cloak and Dagger, Luna Snow, Adam Warlock, and the boy Jeff. Next up, we're going to be tweaking some settings regarding the Spidey Slingers. We got Spider-Man and Venom here. Both of them are going to have settings you can tweak. If we come over here to the hero settings, they have quite a bit. I personally like hold to swing because you're most in control of the duration of your swing. The moment you let go of swing is the moment your swing will end. You don't have to ride out an entire animation. Automatic swinging, I would turn this off. Hold to wall crawl and hold to wall run, I would also turn these on. I like it. It feels more responsive. When you want to stick to a wall, you stick to the button, and it just makes more sense in my brain. Now, specifically on controller, you might not want to turn on hold to wall run just because you are working with the joystick and not a shift key. So this one on controller, I would turn off. Same goes for Venom here. In terms of hold to wall crawl, I would turn that on. Hold to wall run, depending on your input. Controller off. mouse and keyboard on, and the hold to swing on, easy swing, turn that off. That's like the automatic swinging on Spider-Man. Trust me, you'll have a much better time playing the slingers if you have those settings tweaked on. Another setting that I personally like to tweak was on Star-Lord. If you come under his hero section, he has a hold to activate rocket propulsion. This is his ability button. I actually like to hold it because once again, you're just more in control. Instead of toggling his boosters, then turning off his boosters, it's just hold to boost, let go of it, and then the boosters are done. Another character I made a subtle adjustment to, just like Star-Lord, was Namor. Namor also has a setting where he kind of goes up into a water dome, and it's a toggle effect. So you go up, you toggle it, he's in the water dome, you press it again, he'll finish the water dome. But I find it better if you're just holding the ability, because then the moment you let go, you'll exit the animation. So I changed this from toggle, which was off here, to now on. Another character here who actually has a setting that makes a big difference is Loki. If you come under his hero section, he has double confirmation for God of Mischief. This is his ultimate, and it's nice to have this because it makes detecting like who exactly you're switching to more identifiable. Like, hold up, we'll pop out of here. We'll go to Loki quick, and you guys will see when I pop my X. Hold up. We gotta go get the ultimate. I don't got it. There we go. We'll hop back over here. Okay, if I shapeshift and I press X, I now have to double confirm. It shows you a little visual as well. You see her face above there, and then if I want to go through with it, I then left click. Boom. Now we switch. So it gives you a little bit more information, and it just makes sure you're not accidentally switching to somebody by accident. Another setting that I tweaked is on the boy Jeff the Land Shark. Jeff has a setting that allows you to go and dive under and then also wall crawl. Wall crawling is set to hold by default, but holding to dive, like swimming underground, is on toggle by default. I personally like to have both of these on hold, so I set hold to dive on hold as well. I just find, once again, more control. You exit the dive the moment you let go of the key. And then the last character in the game that I tweaked some settings on was Iron Man. Iron Man also has some hold key functions that make a big difference here. He has hold to perform hyper velocity and hold to perform overdrive hyper velocity. Both of these are much nicer when flying with Iron Man. If you're flying around and you have to toggle flight and then toggle off flight, it's very clunky. Whereas if you want to start flying, you hold down your sprint key and you'll start flying. The moment you want to stop flying, you just let go. It feels so much more natural. Honestly, I don't know why these weren't on by default, but yeah, definitely turn these two settings on. So that was the main meat and potatoes of this video. I'm not gonna lie, all the hard stuff is over. There is just like one or two more settings I think that I changed that actually make a pretty significant difference that I think you guys will want to tweak. Social tab, just for the sake of what I run, I didn't change anything here. My other tab, once again, this is just fine. I left my in-game pop-up tutorials. I'm sure I'll turn it off one day, but right now I'm leaving them on. And under accessibility, I made quite a few changes here actually. The colorblind mode, I've left this to normal. I'm not colorblind. I've never liked colorblind modes, to be honest. Your ally colors are set to a very pale blue by default. I like the pale blue by default. It is very non-invasive, non-attention grabbing, and so I leave my ally color to that and my shield HP bar to that as well. The shield HP bar for detecting how much shield you have, if you set it to blue, it's actually a much duller blue, but the default blue is a nice vibrant like electric blue, so I leave that there. But my enemy colors, HP bar colors, and warning colors, I've all set to green. Now some of you might be like, why would you do that? Green is like friendly. It would be weird to see enemies like that, but green is extremely bright. And it's extremely easy to identify. As much as you think you might not like it because it comes off as friendly, you won't have any problems seeing your enemies. You can see Luna Snow here. She pops up green. Now when I kill enemies, the little confirmation kill icon is also green. It's just, I don't know, it just looks really good. I think it pops and it makes important information very visible. The HP bar color, and the reason I've said that to green is just because health is green and green makes sense to me. I also think that when you're staring at your screen and you want to easily identify how much HP you have or how much trouble you are in, it's a lot easier to passively glance down at my screen without looking at it and see the green. I can easily see it rather than the white, which I actually physically have to move my eyes and be like, okay, that's how much health I have. So that's why I changed the HP bar. And once again, the warning colors, those just translate to important information pieces that I think, you know, are just easy to see when they're green. And the kill icon will just match, you know, the color of your enemies as well. Otherwise that would still be red. So that's pretty much it for settings. That's everything under the sun. Marvel Rivals. I don't think I could have went any more in depth. I hope this covered everything that you had questions about and got you set up nice, and will hopefully allow you to just enjoy your time playing Marvel Rivals. I love this game. It's been a really good time. I played for 10 hours yesterday. We're grinding. We plan on making tons of content on this game here on the channel. And so if you guys are looking forward to that and want to see more of that, definitely subscribe. It's the best way to support the channel as well. And I hope to see you guys in the next video. I do stream every day on Twitch as well. Link to that will be in the description. We're playing all day, every day, man. So I'll catch you guys over there. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great rest of your day. Keep up, stay up. Peace out.